In the late 12th century, Jerusalem stood at the heart of one of the most intense religious and political struggles the medieval world had ever known. For centuries, the city had been more than a place on a map. It was a symbol of faith, power, and identity, sacred to Muslims, Christians, and Jews alike. Every stone, street, and sanctuary carried layers of devotion and memory, making Jerusalem not only a spiritual center, but also a prize fiercely contested by empires and armies. Since 1099, Jerusalem had been under Crusader control. During the First Crusade, European armies captured the city in a conquest marked by extraordinary brutality. Contemporary accounts describe widespread violence against Muslim and Jewish inhabitants, an event that left deep scars in the collective memory of the region. From that moment onward, Jerusalem became the capital of the Kingdom of Jerusalem, a Christian state established in the eastern Mediterranean. For nearly 90 years, it remained a Crusader stronghold, defended by fortresses, sustained by European support, and surrounded by a complex and often hostile political landscape. Yet beyond the city's walls, the balance of power in the Muslim world was slowly but decisively changing. The fragmentation that had once weakened Muslim resistance to the Crusaders was beginning to fade. A new generation of leaders was emerging, shaped by discipline, religious conviction, and political realism. Among them was a man whose name would become inseparable from the fate of Jerusalem, Salah ad-Din Yusuf ibn Ayyub, known in the West as Saladin. Saladin was born in 1137 into a Kurdish family of modest standing. Unlike many rulers of his age, he did not inherit a throne, a kingdom, or great wealth. His rise was not the result of noble birth, but of ability, loyalty, and perseverance. As a young man, he entered military service and gradually distinguished himself through discipline and competence. His early career unfolded under the authority of Nur ad-Din, the powerful Muslim ruler of Syria, who sought to resist Crusader expansion and unite Muslim territories under a common cause. Through years of service, Saladin gained experience not only as a soldier, but also as an administrator and leader. His rise accelerated when he was sent to Egypt, a region of immense strategic importance. Over time, Saladin secured control of Egypt and later extended his authority over Syria. By uniting these territories, he achieved something that had long eluded Muslim rulers: political and military cohesion. This unity proved decisive, for the Crusader states had survived for decades largely because their neighbors were divided by rivalry and internal conflict. By the 1180s, Saladin had forged a powerful and centralized leadership. His authority rested not only on military strength but also on religious legitimacy and political stability. With his power consolidated, his attention turned increasingly toward Jerusalem, a city of profound religious significance to Islam and a symbol of the Crusader presence in the region. The decisive turning point came in the summer of 1187. Relations between the Kingdom of Jerusalem and Saladin's forces had deteriorated sharply. One of the key sources of tension was Renaud of Châtillon, a Crusader noble notorious for his aggressive actions, including repeated attacks on Muslim caravans traveling through the region. These raids violated existing truces and directly challenged Saladin's authority. In response, Saladin mobilized his army. The Crusader leadership, rather than remaining on the defensive, chose to confront him in open battle. Marching across arid land under the relentless summer sun, the Crusader forces soon faced severe difficulties. Cut off from reliable water supplies near the village of Hattin, their army began to weaken even before the battle was fully joined. On July 4th, 1187, Saladin's forces encircled the Crusader army. Exhausted by heat, dehydration, and disorganization, The Crusaders were unable to mount an effective defense. The battle ended in catastrophe for the Kingdom of Jerusalem. Much of its military strength was destroyed, its leaders captured or killed, and one of Christianity's most sacred relics, the true cross, fell into Saladin's hands. The Battle of Hattin marked the collapse of Crusader power in the region. With the Crusader armies broken, the road to Jerusalem lay open. City after city fell with little resistance as Saladin's forces advanced. By September 1187, Jerusalem itself was surrounded. Inside the city were civilians, clergy, and a small defending force led by Balian of Ibelin. The memory of the massacre carried out by the Crusaders in 1099 loomed large, fueling fear that a similar fate might await the city's inhabitants. Negotiations began amid limited fighting. It soon became clear that Jerusalem could not withstand a prolonged siege. After intense discussions, terms of surrender were agreed upon. On October 2nd, 1187, Jerusalem was formally handed over to Saladin. What followed set Saladin apart from many conquerors of his age. Rather than ordering a massacre, he permitted the city's Christian inhabitants to leave peacefully in exchange for ransom. Many who could not pay were released. Churches were largely preserved, and Christian holy sites were respected. Jewish families, long barred from Jerusalem under Crusader rule, were allowed to return to the city. Saladin's conduct stood in stark contrast to the events of 1099 and earned him a reputation for mercy and restraint, even among his enemies. His actions demonstrated that power and compassion were not necessarily incompatible, even in an age defined by warfare. The fall of Jerusalem sent shockwaves throughout Europe and directly led to the launch of the Third Crusade. Figures such as Richard the Lionheart would soon enter into conflict with Saladin, transforming him into a legendary opponent in both Islamic and European traditions. Although the Crusaders managed to reclaim some coastal territory, Jerusalem remained under Muslim control. Yet the city was not closed to the world. Christian pilgrims were allowed access, reflecting Saladin's broader vision of governance rooted in both authority and tolerance. His rule emphasized stability, religious respect, and political pragmatism. Saladin died in 1193, only a few years after his greatest victory. He left behind little personal wealth, but his legacy endured far beyond his lifetime. The fall of Jerusalem in 1187 was not merely a military or political turning point. It reshaped ideas of leadership, honor, and mercy in an age of war. Through his actions, Saladin secured his place in history as a conqueror remembered not only for what he took, but for how he chose to rule.